hate your job and you want to quit and go into something totally different, totally new. Before you do that, here's the 5 things that you need to ask yourself in order to start a new job or a new career and be successful at it. Number 1, before you start any new job, ask yourself, what do you hate about your current job? Because if you just have this vague little feeling that, oh, I hate what I'm doing here, until you actually find out what you hate about it, you can't go somewhere new and know if that's going to be good for you. What do I mean by that? I was talking with one gentleman, and he told me how much he hated living in this one subdivision. I said, well, why do you hate it? And he said, well, because there's no bus service. And so I kept on asking him questions. He had originally been from a big city where he had bus service, and he never had to have a car in that big city. And he moved down to Florida, and he was out away from the center of town, and there was no bus service. And it wasn't that he hated the city or hated the state, it's the fact that he never got used to driving to get where he wanted to go. He was used to getting on a bus. And so once I got down to find out what the big problem was, it wasn't the fact that he hated the city, it was the fact that he didn't like to drive. So before you say, I hate my job, what do you hate about it? Get a list and write down everything that you despise about this job, and then decide if that is something that's going to change if you move over to a new job. Maybe it's something as simple as you need to transfer to a different department. Maybe there's a personality clash. Maybe you're having problems with somebody there in your office, and if you go to a new office, everything is going to be great. If you go to a different department, everything is going to be great. If you just go ahead and talk to your boss, maybe you can resolve things. Number 2, write down exactly what you like about your job, because you want to know what the good things are about it first before you leave for something else. Because sometimes people just jump out of a job, they jump into something new, and they really haven't thought about it. And so decide exactly what you like about it, what you hate about your job, and is that going to change if you move to a different job? If it's not going to change, why move? Number 3, before you decide to move, ask yourself, what steps would I have to take to be successful in that job? And find out what your aptitudes are. So there's a book called Discover What You're Best At. It's an absolutely wonderful book, costs about $12 at a bookstore, and it basically tests you on your aptitudes. When you take these tests, you'll find out what your strengths are. And you want to also go ahead and discover what your interests are. And if you're a very social person, if you're very much an outgoing type person, maybe you want to be in sales. If you're very shy and very quiet, very introverted, maybe sales wouldn't be the right thing for you. If you're very good with numbers, maybe you want to deal with something that deals with numbers. If you're very good with find out what your strengths are. Find out what you need to do to become fluent and have those skill sets available, because you don't go into an interview saying, I want to go into this new job, I have absolutely no skills. I have no clue as to what I'm doing, but I want to take that job. Employers want you to hit the floor running. If you come in and you have absolutely no idea how to get started, they are probably not going to want to invest the time, effort, and money to train you. But if you can intern, if you can start taking some classes, if you can do a tag-along and just see what they're doing and help out, even if it's only for a couple hours a week, so that you can decide, is this something I want to do, you'd be much farther ahead of the ball game. Because sometimes you'll get into a job and you say, oh, they don't have a marketing system, their idea of how to get customers is totally terrible, they have a terrible pay system. Find out how it actually works before you jump on board. if you have to work for free for a couple of weeks, for a couple of hours, whatever it is, talk with the person that you want to go ahead and shift careers and find out, is that something that you want to change into? Number 4, get yourself ready. If you think, okay, I'm going to jump into something and it's going to take me about a month and a half before I really know what I'm doing, I start to have some commissions coming in, then maybe you want to have a month and a half, 2 months of savings saved up before you go in there. Maybe you might want to go ahead and start out part-time and gradually work your way into that. Maybe you might want to go ahead and do something where if it's a conflict of interest and you can't go into that, maybe you want to go ahead and see, how can I go ahead and transition over to that and still maintain my status of living? What happens if you can't? What happens if you go from making $80,000 a year down to $30,000 a year? Well, if you know that going in, what you could do is, before you take on that jump, train yourself to adjust your expenses so that now that you're living on $30,000 a year, and so that when you shift over, you're not going to see this huge extra tension on top of you. And finally, once you're ready to switch, fake it till you make it. If you don't know exactly what you're doing, work hard. Work 3 times as hard as anybody else while you're on the job. Be eager, be enthusiastic, be very attentive, and be sharp. And when you do that, people will actually believe that you know what you're doing. And if someone asks you questions and you don't know the answer, say, that's a great question. Let me research that and get back to you. What you don't want to do is say, well, I think. Don't tell people that. Tell people, that's a great question, let me get back to you. Or, I've never heard that question before. Let me go ahead and research that and give you exactly the correct answer. What's a way that I can go ahead and reach you on that? Because if you start just BSing and start lying and showing your total ignorance, you're going to diminish your professionalism. What happens if you have already made the switch? This is where you need to decide, is this where my passion is? What am I willing to give up for this? Because if you're doing something that you love, what you earn isn't really the biggest concern, is it? It's only when you're doing something that you totally hate that you say, the only way I do this is if they paid me X amount of money. And so if you have passion at it, eventually, hopefully, you'll start to develop expertise at this and you become very good at it, and then you can start charging the rates and the fees that you did before. But whatever you do, don't just be in a job for the money, because I've known too many people that have gotten a job and they hate what they're doing and they only live to get drunk on Friday nights and Saturday nights so they can be totally smashed and they can totally forget about their job, and then they live for the weekends. That's not how you want to live. What happens if you take a job and you decide, nope, this isn't what I want to do? If you've prepared yourself ahead of time, there's going to be much less chance of you stumbling into a bad job than if you jump in without doing your research. So find out why you don't like what you're currently doing now. Find out what you do like about what you're doing now. See if there's going to be an intersection of your interest and your aptitudes at the new job. Prepare, and then fake it till you make it.